that relationship, which broke down after a very warm period in the first term. It broke down in Hanoi when Kim Jong Un asked for too much, and the President Trump walked out, and that was the end of their beautiful exchange of letters in the first term.
It is that time of night again when we check in with the White House. We've done a little bit on this already today, but let's just sum up the main news lines from the United States with David Charter, who is US Assistant Editor for The Times. This is, of course, the Trump dump. David, good evening.
Good afternoon from Washington, D.C.
Lovely to have you with us, David. Let's talk about Donald Trump today and what he was up to. He's meeting the Polish president, the new Polish president, President Nawrocki. So they met at the White House. It seemed like a very positive discussion, actually. Lots of positive noises. It went particularly well. One interesting thing to note is the questions after that meeting took place from the press. And Trump was asked about the large military parade that's been taking place or that took place in Beijing, attended by both the Chinese, North Korean and Russian presidents. Let's have a look at what Trump had to, or let's have a listen even at what Trump had to say.
When they did what they did, I thought it was a beautiful ceremony. I thought it was very, very impressive. But I understood the reason they were doing it, and they were hoping I was watching, and I was watching. My relationship with all of them is very good. We're going to find out how good it is over the next week or two.
There we go. What did he mean by that? We're going to find out how good it is over the next week or two.
Yeah, we've got a couple of flashpoints coming up, a couple of Trump deadlines. Well, actually, one of them has just passed. He'd given a deadline to President Putin to meet with President Zelensky of Ukraine. Of course, that hasn't happened. So in the questions later, he also talked about how he was going to speak on the phone, we presume, with Putin very soon, very shortly, in fact, he said. And we'll either be happy or unhappy. And if we're unhappy, we'll do something. So that's pretty clear. That's the latest position on President Putin. With President Xi, the Americans keep extending a temporary pass on the tariffs, on the high tariffs that America put on China. They're still pretty high, but they're not eye-watering while they negotiate their final trade agreement. And there was talk of a meeting with President Xi, like in person, later this year. I'm not sure where we're at with that now, but he could be referring to that. And then with President Kim from the North Korea, we know that, or we've been told that Trump is trying to rekindle his relationship there, and maybe angling for a new meeting with him. Again, that's not confirmed. So we don't know the exact status of that relationship, which broke down after a very warm period in the first term. It broke down in Hanoi when Kim Jong Un asked for too much, and the President Trump walked out, and that was the end of their beautiful exchange of letters in the first term.
Okay, all right. Well, that's that. If we just focus on what was said with the Polish president today, of course, the big fear from Poland, who are the largest contributor by GDP percentage to NATO, 4.7% of GDP on defence. So they sort of, headed into this meeting with Donald Trump knowing that on that front they have a particularly strong hand. There was a lot of US defensive support in Poland, isn't there? And the concern from Poland is that Donald Trump, with his slightly anti-NATO agenda on the Ukraine war, might look to pull some of that resource out of Poland. But Trump sounded quite enthusiastic about it all today, David.
Yes, this will be music to the Polish government's ears. It actually reflects what was going on in Trump's first term, where he started to pull American soldiers, or planned to pull American soldiers, out of Germany because he fell out with Angela Merkel and thought they should be somewhere else, and Poland stood to benefit. But that was put on hold by Biden when he came in. So there was an exchange with the Polish president today when actually he was asked by a journalist, actually, whether America was committed to keeping troops in Poland. And Trump said, if anything, we'll put more there if they want. They've long wanted to have a larger presence. So he's very aware of the situation and actually the vulnerability that Poland would feel if there was no American presence. But Trump very much reassured them, and it doesn't sound like an America first approach, but perhaps this is more his peace through strength approach. He says, no, they'll be staying in Poland. We're very much aligned with Poland. He likes the conservative government of Poland very much.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to Jeffrey Epstein. Only 2 more Republican signatures are needed, David, to force a House vote on the release of the Epstein files. That's according to a Democratic Congressman, Ro Khanna, who first introduced the petition to Congress. I forget the exact number of Republicans they needed, but it was sort of into the tens, wasn't it, that they needed to back that to get it across the line. Donald Trump slammed the push for the files release, calling it a Democrat hoax. Let's have a listen.
So this is a Democrat hoax that never ends. You know, it reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. From what I understand, I could check, but from what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given. But it's really a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president.
Do we think this is likely to happen? 2 more signatures required, according to that congressman.
It looks like it's pretty close to the line, much to Trump's annoyance, as you can tell there. He'd rather people were talking about anything else. And it's got some pretty important Republican allies, because one of the Republicans who is backing this move to release everything is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a really strong Trump supporter in all other things. But she was very prominent today when a group of Epstein victims held a big outside demonstration and conference in near Congress. Marjorie Taylor Greene was there and said she would go to Congress and she would start naming names of every single client of Epstein's if there was no client list produced. So feelings are running very high on Capitol Hill. And it wouldn't surprise me if they did get the numbers, because it's seen by some of the Republicans as a commitment to the kind of openness that even trumps their fear of the wrath of Donald Trump. And they've been given cover, of course, by someone as close to Trump as Marjorie Taylor Greene. So it's a fascinating one to watch if they're going to get there.
Okay, and if they do get there, what are we talking about exactly here, the Epstein files? Are large amounts of it likely to be redacted? Is it likely to reveal anything particularly bombastic? What is the sort of general consensus? Of course, no one really knows, or very, very few people know. But are these thought to be dynamite?
Well, we had a dump of documents last night, which was seen more of as a distraction or spoiler from the big demonstration and big appearance of the victims today. And that was 33,000 separate documents, I believe. And it was said that this is just 1% of all the material that's still held by the American authorities. So we're talking 30 million, and if I've done my maths right, we're talking 33 million separate documents.
Oh my goodness me.
So I don't know.
It's going to take more than a night to go through.
Those things. Who's going to read all that? Yeah, it's going to be needle in a haystack time, unless it's searchable and you can start searching on people's names. It's going to be a while, even if they do get that. It's going to take some going through.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about Nigel Farage as well. He's been, as we've been covering on the show tonight, giving evidence on European threats to American free speech at a committee hearing in Washington, D.C. today. In an embarrassing moment, the Democrat Congressman Jared Moskowitz teased Farage that the reason he had to leave the hearing early was to meet the president for lunch.
I'm sorry to hear you're leaving the hearing early.
Well, it's not a question of leaving the hearing early, but I do have other things to do. Yeah.
Oh, where are you going?
I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay. Where are you going?
It's not lunch, I promise you.
It's not lunch. You're not going to have lunch.
I don't think so, no.
No lunch.
Sad, isn't
You're
it?
meeting with the president?
I can't remember what the schedule is. It's possible.
You can't remember if you're meeting with the president.
I'm being very polite, and I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing this afternoon, but I can assure you that...
But there's the free speech hearing. You're not going to tell me what you're doing this afternoon?
Free speech is one thing, discretion's quite another, too.
Okay. All right, so you're leaving to have lunch with the president. So Mr.
I mean, he seemed to quite enjoy that, but he wasn't leaving to have lunch with the president. Why wouldn't he say what he was doing, David Charter?
Well, we think he was actually leaving to meet the president. So
wasn't he going to do so? Well, perhaps we've got some confusion here, or perhaps this is in reference to an earlier point in the hearing. But we were just speaking to Joanna Maska, the former Obama aide, earlier, and she said he left to do a GB News interview. But was that maybe at an earlier point, or?
That may have been another commitment that he had. We know he's also over for some GB News appointments because that outlet is launching some kind of program in America, and there's actually a party for them tonight, which Nigel Farage was due to go to, we think. So he's got a couple of things in his schedule. Americans say schedule, so even that was probably amusing to them. And we do think he is meeting with President Trump. But of course, there was still time for plenty of knockabout, and that was just a small part of it. But I do think that the headlines that have come out of it, with Nigel Farage basically saying, when did Britain become North Korea?
Yeah.
At what point did we become North Korea? He told America. I do think we haven't heard the last of that. And I think that we've already seen Sir Keir Starmer, and we will hear others referring to that comment as in the days and weeks to come. I personally think that was a step too far by Nigel Farage, that he might regret saying that.
A lot of the rumours have been swirling around saying actually he was sort of trying to impress upon the US penalties on the UK over free speech, which he denied that he was doing. I mean, it's puzzled. I mean, maybe not surprised people over here, but of course, Parliament's just returned into autumn, and here is Nigel Farage missing from the first week of term, Prime Minister's questions today, and here he is appearing at a judicial committee in the United States, effectively slagging off the UK's online safety laws and saying that we're not protecting free speech. So there's been a bit of puzzlement over here about it. What do the Americans make of him? I mean, were they sort of, chiding him a little bit like he was sort of a kind of a circus act, or do they understand that he, has a relationship with Donald Trump?
Oh, it's a complete split screen, along with whenever you ask me what do Americans think of this, I'm going to have to tell you, if it's a political matter, what do the Republican side of America think, and what does the Democrat side think? And so the Republican side is delighted to see Nigel Farage, who they regard as a potential future prime minister, and perhaps the true voice of where British voters or a majority of them are at the moment, and that would be the Republican position. The Democrat position is that he represents a fringe party with a handful of MPs and shouldn't be giving evidence to an American congressional committee because he's not a significant enough figure. Now you can't. There's nothing you can do to square those two views. Those are the two corners of America. The Democrats were very keen to play down anything that Nigel Farage told them today, whereas the Republicans found it very supportive of the things that J.D. Vance has been saying ever since he became vice president, which is that freedom of speech is under threat in Europe, and America's the only place where you can go out and truly say whatever you like and be protected for it.
Yeah. Look, David, thank you so much for being with us. Some interesting topics of conversation today. David Charter is US Assistant Editor for The Times, and you can read David's work at thetimes.com and in the paper, and of course the work of the brilliant team based over there in the United States as well. Daily drops from them, daily content to digest. Thank you, David.